Hello YouTubers, welcome to another episode here at the Sparks Rowing Camp at Cambridge University. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Cameron Buchan and I do some rowing, but I won't be doing much rowing this week in this small series. I'm helping coaching and helping videoing this rowing camp here. But today we have some flat water, an excellent opportunity to get onto the water and see how we can help the athletes improve, whether it's technically or off the water, help them sort of get a better idea of what they can do to help take rowing as far as they can, or how rowing can help them get as far as they can. So today we're going to chat a little bit about sort of my experiences with US University and rowing, how they kind of tie together, and maybe any tips that we could probably try and get from the coaches here, whether they're from the UK or from the US, if they want to go to university and use rowing to do so, to help them. And now it's time for a little bit of a warm up and then get on the water. We've made it off the water after a pretty sick session. The water stayed flat, a little bit colder than yesterday. The sun isn't shining, but managed to have some fun and learn a little bit. But now we're going to fuel up after the session, because remember, food is fuel. We have to recover after the session regardless of what we do on the water or whether it's off the water as well. And then we're going to have a little bit of a chat. I've been trying to gain some wisdom from the coaches here, and then I'm going to try and combine that with my experiences of going to university in America, using rowing, and see if it can help you, or if you're interested in the process. We'll have a little bit of chat after for some food about sort of like my experience, and see if I can give any tips if you wanted to attend university for rowing or use rowing in general for progressing in different aspects in your future, or maybe you're just interested in how it all works. Hopefully I can enlighten you all. But now, getting a bit hungry, so now it's time for some food. Oh yeah! So, we've fueled up after the session, because remember, food is fuel. Now we're just going to have a little bit of a chat about sort of US universities and recruiting if you want to try and row at a US university. So a little bit of small backing of my history. So I went over to the States via basketball and going to a high school over there to try and get more exposure for basketball. Ended up finding rowing, got recruited to a university, Northeastern University, for rowing, and then ended up getting a scholarship to row at Northeastern University in Boston, and rowed there for 4 years, and then came over and tried to further my rowing career. So I'm drawing on my experience as well as other coaches I've spoken with, and the experiences I've tried to gather and combine with my own to hopefully help you. So I think the biggest confusion with American universities is that you have to be found. You have to be located by a US university, or a university in general, and you have to be chosen and then picked out, and then sort of almost like you get brought along on the journey with, say, a coach or a university. And that is actually not true for the majority. Some people, yes, they get selected, they get seen, maybe they make a viral rowing video, or they break a world record on the rowing machine, and the rowing coach sees that and said, I want that guy or girl on my team. But for the vast majority of people, they do well on the erg, they perform well at school, they are a good technical rower, and there's just so much choice for a coach, especially at the States, in many different sports, that they don't necessarily need to go and find someone and bring them in unless they are the tip top. Not only that, not only there's so much choice in athletes, there's such a vast choice for universities. There's so many universities out there with so many rowing programs or other sports, this can apply to pretty much any other sport, that an athlete themselves can go and just have so much choice for a university to go to. And that sort of brings me to another point. I myself, when I went to university, got recruited to university, I only got recruited to one university. And that wasn't because I wasn't very good or that there was a specific reason really for only being recruited by one university, other than just not really understanding the whole situation with recruiting. For me, I was really lucky. I got recruited from one university and I really enjoyed my experience, as well as the rowing was really good and everything. So it all kind of, I really appreciated, I kind of lucked out in the situation where I really enjoyed the experience, the rowing was really good, and the uni itself, I really enjoyed the atmosphere that it provided. Whereas I know in some experiences you can end up going to university, be recruited, and end up maybe not liking the school or the program not be what you thought it was, etc. So a big recommendation, since there's so much choice in both university coaches seeing athletes and universities in general, since there's so much choice to choose from, is one, if you want to try and be recruited, reach out to the coaches. And two, by reaching out to those coaches, you're doing research to find places that you think you might fit in. Whether it's location, maybe you want to live in a big city for university, maybe be it rural. Or maybe you want to go to a massive university with thousands and thousands of students. Maybe you only want to go to a smaller university and have a bit of a smaller experience. It's all kind of up to you. There's the universities in America and worldwide are pretty much, they cover all bases to fit you, and so it's finding the right fit for you. Which brings me to probably the last big point. There's three big points of this, which is first two being you have to find the coaches, you have to reach out to the coaches, and two, you have to do your research, maybe one before the other, do your research to find the places that you'll fit, and then reach out to the coaches. And three, it's really, really important, regardless of the university, is if you fit the university itself. And how do you find out if you're going to fit that university? Well, part of it is personal preference. Like I said, maybe it's in a city, maybe it's very small, maybe it's very big, maybe it has some amazing facilities. Whatever it is that you want, find a university that has that, or then there's probably going to be multiple universities that has those things that tick your boxes, and then kind of narrow that down. You have to be able to do your research to find out how you fit, and as well as sort of the university itself, does it offer your program, does it offer the location that you like, and then and by program I mean educational program, your degree, and then lastly, does the rowing or the sport program work for you? So you really have to sort of communicate with the coaches at the program you might end up looking at and say, what are the air cut-offs, for example? What's training like? How does racing work? How does selection work? Asking all these questions to really figure out, okay, will I be able to thrive in the environment? And by communicating with the coaches, especially if you communicate with multiple coaches, you'll kind of be able to see, okay, how the programs work a little bit better. You'll be able to see how different coaches communicate, and you'll be able to find out what works best for you. And there are three massive things. And probably lastly, for a little bit of a different sort of tact, financially as well. There are so many schools out there, so many universities out there, especially in the US, where there's ways to be able to financially get to a school. It's a deeper subject than that, but there's scholarship options, and not necessarily just you do a sport, you get money for that. There's academic scholarships as well that I know I've had conversations with a lot of younger athletes that didn't know that existed. So if you do well at school, get good grades, you can actually get academic scholarships and sort of combine the two. You can get maybe 50% academic scholarship, 50% athletic scholarship, and then you end up with a full scholarship. And there's things like that I know a lot of people are trying, especially from Britain, that are kind of looking at the US or never really sort of felt like maybe they should go to the US, that they can do that. So you can end up actually paying, I know the prices of American universities can sometimes be absolutely astronomical, but there are ways that it can be paid for. But obviously it's not just as easy as saying, okay, I have good grades, I'm a good athlete, I'm going to have it paid for. Again, you have to do your research and find out what might fit for you, speaking to the coaches, and then obviously having good grades can really, really help depending on the school. Some schools have a little bit of leeway on sort of getting you into the school via sports, but other schools, it's your academics first. If you don't meet a certain standard in grades, and that grade sort of like GPA, the grade point average, can vary quite drastically to get into the school in the first place. And if you don't meet that standard for that school, for that university, then it doesn't really matter how good you are in the sporting world. And that's kind of more like it is in the UK, where it's academics to get into the school and then you do your sports stuff. Sometimes in the US it can be sort of together a little bit there. But again, you have to do your research and figure out what the programs need. Will I fit in the program? Do I fit in the degrees? Do they offer a degree I would quite like to do, a subject I would like to study? And then you can say, okay, these are the 10 universities I would like to go to. They're spread all across the States. I want to try and get a visit to those schools. I want to speak to those coaches in person. And if you are onto the standards and you find places you like and the coaches want to see you, you can actually get what's called an official visit, and the school will pay for your visit around the campus. You'll stay on campus, you'll get an experience of how the university works. Obviously, with things going on around the world, it can be a little bit tricky and quite different, but when everything's normal, it can just be a case of, okay, let's get the visit to, there's a maximum right now of 5 schools, 5 different universities. You can go to university, 5 different ones, and you can say, that I really like this one because it was in a city, but I didn't like this one because I didn't offer my subject, or I can't afford this one. There's can be reasons for you individually, but that might be completely different for someone else to go to a different university. But I think the biggest thing, from what I've said, is finding somewhere that fits for you. And the only way to find that place that fits you is to do some research, and most of the information is very available. Just a quick Google of the university, you can see the location, you can see the subjects, the degrees that are offered, and then if you do like that university, you're going to have to, I recommend liking the university for what it is first. If you love the sport that you're doing, and you love the training, and you love all the facilities, but you're not liking the school, you're going to really, really struggle. It is going to make the experience so much more enjoyable if you really enjoy the educational side and the subject that you like is offered at that school, and you can study that side by side with the athletics. You're going to be off to a flyer. So hopefully a little bit of a chat there, a little bit of sort of tips if it were to help you if you do want to apply it, and hopefully that a little bit of an explanation or a little bit of words if you were curious. Let me know in the comments below if you have any other questions, and I'll maybe make another couple of videos to do with that, because the subject itself can be so varied. There's so many layers to it, and it can be quite a complicated process if you don't know kind of what has to be done, which path to take, what rules to follow, because the rules are pretty complicated and they do change, but once you know them, it can be relatively simple. So hopefully that all made sense and you did enjoy today's episode of Yam Squad. Something a little bit different. Really enjoying being here. A little bit of variation, a little opportunity to vary things up, because remember, variation is one of the keys to motivation. And as always, remember to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that like button, and I will see you in the next episode of this mini series. Are you?